welcome to another week. Of course, before we get started with catching up with Jacob, we have, of course, Elon giving us his Israeli update. This week has been quite a hectic week in Israel news. Without further ado, take it away.
Okay, so this week, the stories that have been big over here, and they are thematically connected, as you'll see when I spit them out, um, are as follows. The thing that's been burning through the Israeli social media and the mainstream media here, first of all, is the Islamic slaughter of the Druze in Syria. You may not have seen much about this in the mainstream media in the rest of the world. In fact, I'd be astonished if it's actually registering anywhere. But even as late as a few days ago, the Islamic regime and their proxies have slaughtered at least 1,200 Druze, burning, raping, beheading, pushing people off buildings. And I'm not just talking about homosexuals here. I mean, just because they're Druze, they've been pushing them off buildings to execute them. It was reported over here that a brutal campaign of violence has been unfolding in southern Syria, and hundreds of Druze civilians have been murdered, kidnapped, or forced to flee their homes, with villages being burned, women and children slaughtered in Druze sacred sites where they'd gone to take refuge. And the perpetrators were, again, Muslim militants. Basically, this is ISIS by any other name. And this is the same regime, by the way, that David Lammy gave, the UK foreign minister, gave 74 million to only a short while ago, and was shaking hands with the leader, of course. And one of the weird things about, well, say weird, the sick things about this is, of course, just like the Gaza massacre, these little jihadis were filming it all for public entertainment, of course. They actually enjoy watching people being killed, and humiliated. So, they take their own footage for their own propaganda and enjoyment. It's like a sadistic joy in creating hu human suffering and humiliating non-Muslims. Now, over here, Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu, did actually say that, already, as people are probably aware, that Israel has been bombing certain targets in Syria. Now, we're not just bombing anybody; these are specific targets to reduce the regime's ability to carry out this slaughter. We're trying in some way to protect the Druze. While this response is ongoing and it's developing, it has included airstrikes against the Syrian regime positions south of Damascus and even within Damascus itself. Um, but particularly, we're targeting forces involved in the attacks on Druze civilians. And as far as I am aware, it also includes intelligence support and other covert actions to help deter the massacres. And it's been mentioned over here that really, even if we can't do everything that the Druze community would want, the principle is there because, of course, there's a very strong and very valued Druze community within Israel, and they're very closely connected with their kin and families within Syria, and so they've been crying out for help, from the Israeli government. Um, Now, at the same time as this was happening, and really not a lot was being said about it in the mainstream media in the West, that there's been footage of these so-called asylum seekers in Germany when they're seeing this on social media, they've been celebrating, they've been cheering this along,
Yes.
which gives you an idea of what kind of people are coming into the West.
Yeah.
They're just so glad to see non-Muslims getting wiped out. Now, only a few days ago, the mayor of a town in it's very close to Haifa. It's a town called Daliat al Carmel, which is and it's a
Yeah.
Druze town. And he says now that the Druze now are in a holy war against the Syrian regime. And he says this marks a turning point for the Druze across the Middle East, and now we are in a battle for survival, he says. And you know, the kind of things that they're doing to the Druze, apart from killing them and beheading them, there's some awful footage of them, of some jihadis chopping people's heads off and hanging, you know, holding their heads up by the hair. I mean, it's really quite disturbing. They're also doing things like, you know, for Druze, for the men, it's important that their facial hair and their beard and the way that they carry their dress is part of is a very strong part of their religion. So these jihadis are humiliating them by shaving off all their beards and facial hair. Very like you would have seen perhaps in Nazi Germany, where Jews were forced, you know, humiliated in the streets and this kind of same kind of thing is going on. Now, this is where it starts to become more, well, this is where how to put it, this is where the ripple effect now starts to come in because you've got the Druze patriarchs in Syria. They have been beseeching Israel to annex the parts of Syria where they dwell around their holy mountain area, the Druze mountain area. They're saying, please, we want to become Israeli citizens. We want, you know, we want now,
Yes.
you know, years ago, people would have said, oh, you know, Israel, you know, it's all they're always trying to become a greater Israel. They want to take over this and they want to take over that. You know, on the whole, Israel has been very restrained in that way, but this is an actual area of Syria that they're just desperate to be, you know, to want to become Israeli citizens, and because Israel's the only power in the region that's offering them any protection or safety. They know that if they became part of Israel or Israeli citizens, they would have a much greater degree of safety. They know how perilous their existence is in Syria. Anyway, following on from this now, first of all, the Syrian regime has been asking for Turkish aid. Nominally, it says this aid is to help, you know, to against the forces of ISIS, except for one thing. The Syrian regime basically is ISIS. You know, their
Yeah.
leader is no is just they have the same mentality as Hamas. They have the same uh, well, it's the same brutality. It's all the same thing, really. So that's just what's a smoke screen, really. What to try and draw Turkey into the conflict, and Turkey has threatened war if Israel does such a thing as annex the Druze area. It's declared that any attempt to divide Syria, as they put it, will be seen as a direct threat to the Turkish national security, and it's vowed to intervene. So both Erdogan and the Turkish foreign minister have said that they've threatened war if Syria is divided, as they put it. Now, on this same subject, there is also recently Turkey has entered an agreement to buy 40 Typhoon Eurofighters, and so that's you can see that there is an anticipation here that there might be our next war might just be with the Turkish regime. Um, but that's also complicated because at the moment Turkey is a member of NATO.
Yes.
So this is, you know, you can see this is getting more serious. So that's that problem. Now there's, of course, the rest of the world isn't interested about what's going on in Syria with the Druze. They don't care. I mean, I hardly think it's featured on the Western media at all. If so, it could be. So anyway. The other thing was, um, this follows on, of course, from what we've talked in previous weeks, and this is to do with Judea and Samaria. Now, just recently, the Knesset voted to annex Judea and Samaria, or at least it voted in a show of support for actually doing that. It's not actually annexed it; it's a vote to support such a thing um, if that motion was if that action was taken. On the whole, this is at the moment this is symbolic, and it's a show of support for the idea, but it is significant because it indicates how much the attitude of the country has shifted. Um, and it also comes on the heels of certain other things. One, the previous Knesset votes against the establishment of a Palestinian state. In 2024, about 99 of the 120 members of Knesset supported a declaration that Israel will continue to oppose a unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state. Um, Recognizing that that would be a massive reward for terrorism and would destroy any future chance of peace. But this vote was taken a day or two ago, but this has had across the aisle support, even from people like Avigdor Lieberman, who is no friend of Bibi and no friend of this particular government. So while it may not have any immediate changes in fact on the ground, it does indicate there's a much stronger consensus on this issue than there ever was before. Because eventually annexing uh, these areas must happen. Well, two good reasons why, at least. Because, like for instance, the October the 7th, obviously invasion happened in the south of Israel, and we know what the damage that caused. Well, of course, if we allow this festering boil in the in Judea and Samaria to keep on growing, the possibility of another October the 7th thing could happen, but this time right in the center of Israel, where millions of people live, as opposed to, only tens of thousands who lived around the Gaza area. Um, and of course, if Israel has sovereignty in Judea and Samaria and active sovereignty on the ground, it's much easier for security forces to engage in counter-terrorist operations. And of course, as you probably may be aware, if you've there are certain areas within the current Palestinian Authority that are just terror bases, basically like Jenin or and places like that. So then, of course, this all links to recent threats by the French government, and now the UK government is under pressure to do the same. That they want to recognise a Palestinian terror state. So, uh, all of these things are linked together. And then this is probably one of the most stupid. This should take prize for the stupid thing of the week. The Labour MP that wanted to bring British troops into the Gaza area to stop the IDF. I mean, this is a stupid. You know, that would effectively be a declaration of war on Israel from the UK, which I don't think it should be taken seriously, but it just shows how crazy things are in the UK. And finally, a few bits and pieces. Well, I say bits and pieces. These are really quite a serious list of things and gives you an idea of how much more the hatred of Israel and anti-Semitism is increasing worldwide. I mean, there's been a number of incidents in the Mediterranean. The Greek island of Syros, there was that. a cruise ship with Israeli passengers on board, and they had to actually turn away from landing there because of a blockade by pro-terror, pro-Palestinian terror supporters, and it was considered not safe for the Israeli passengers to disembark there. In on the Greek island of Rhodes, again, there was an incident outside of a nightclub where very popular with Israeli tourists. And when these teenagers came out, there was a group again of pro-Palestinian thugs lying in wait, and they attacked them and quite brutally and beat them up and kicking them and all kinds of stuff. So that was a little mini pogrom there on Rhodes. Then there is this incident in this Tomorrowland music festival in Belgium, where a notorious anti-Israel organization tried to involve the Belgian authorities to arrest two Israelis who were attending there because they had been soldiers in the IDF, and so they were trying to get them arrested by accusing them of war crimes. And then probably the worst one this week was this incident on I don't know how exactly, I think it's pronounced Vueling. It appears to be a Spanish airline, like a budget airline. And there was
Yes.
a Jewish school te I think it was a school teacher and 40 children, camp leader, and they were on a school trip to I think was it Valencia or somewhere?
Yes,
And
Valencia.
Valencia, yeah. And when the aircrew heard the some of the children either were singing a Hebrew song or speaking in Hebrew. Now these are not even Israeli children. They're just French Jewish school kids. They protested. The aircrew protested and accused them of being, terrorists and all kinds of stuff, and terror supporters because they supported Israel and all this kind of thing. And then they they moved to have them all removed from the flight, and it resulted in the end. Oh, the police came on board. They wanted to take the phones off everybody so they couldn't film or whatever. And when the tour leader, the camp leader, refused, they slapped her down onto the ground. And according to this, they beat her up to some extent and handcuffed her and marched her off the plane, arrested her, and then she was interrogated by the airport police authorities. This is absolutely horrible. I mean, and they left the children stuck on the plane without their supervisor. Yeah, this is um, these are just French Jews. They're not Israelis or anything like that. They have no direct connection with Israel. Um,
That airline is owned by British Airways. It's a subsidiary of
oh,
BA.
oh, hello, Jakob. Yeah, yes. Well, yeah. So that's pretty disgusting. So I mean, things are ramping up. You can see there's certain trends here that are coming together, which isn't, and they're not ones that we really like to see. Um,
No.
and this is
Anti-Semitism
quite
is
horrible.
rearing its ugly head around the world, it seems.
Yeah, it's getting worse. Yeah, particularly in Europe, I think. Um, I mean, I should also mention that awful thing and I don't know if they've passed it yet as a law, but this is the Irish this new legislation they want to bring in to make products products produced by Jewish businesses in Judea and Samaria. They want to make it illegal to import them to Ireland and illegal to sell them.
Hmm.
That's another thing. So, it's well, Ireland, Southern Ireland, well, it's been a bit messed up for a long time with that kind of thing. But I mean, so it's not a surprise, but it's just sad. So that, so
Absolutely.
that's the kind of roundup of the things that I was following this week, and it's quite disturbing. I mean, I don't always watch. I don't really watch the Western media very much now because most of it's a waste of time. I mean, the BBC. I mean, their coverage on Israel is so appalling that you may as well watch Al Jazeera, to be honest. But yeah. So that's where
Well,
things are anyway. What I've been watching and seeing anyway through the media this week, the Israeli media anyway.
well, thank you so much for your update, Andy. We
Oh,
will see you next week.